Today, we learn history of architectures for PhD entrance exam.
History of Architecture, Study Notes for PhD Entrance Exam. 1. Ancient Civilizations. 1.1 Egyptian Architecture, circa 3100-332 BCE. Context. Shaped by belief in the afterlife, divine kingship, pharaohs, and the Nile's cycles. Key materials. Sun-dried mud brick for houses, limestone, sandstone, and granite for temples and tombs. Characteristic features. Post and lintel trebeted construction. Massive, thick walls with battered, sloping sides. Use of the pylon, monumental gateway, hypostyle hall, forest of columns, and clerestory lighting. Columns styled after plants, papyrus, lotus, palm capitals. Hieroglyphic and relief carvings covering surfaces. Axial planning, long processional axes. Major building types and examples. Type example notes Mastaba early tombs pre-pyramid flat-roofed rectangular structure over burial pit pyramid step pyramid of Djoser Saqqara by Imhotep first stone monumental structure true pyramid Great Pyramids of Giza Khufu, Khafra, Menkaure precise geometry, Royal Tombs Temple Karnak, Luxor, Abu's symbol pylon, courtyard, hypostyle hall, sanctuary sequence rock-cut tomb Valley of the King's hidden tombs to prevent looting. 1.2 Mesopotamian architecture, circa 4539 BCE, Sumerian, Babylonian, Assyrian. Context. Between Tigris and Euphrates, lack of stone led to brick-based construction. Key materials. Sun-dried and kiln-fired mud brick, bitumen as mortar, glazed brick for decoration. Characteristic features. The ziggurat, stepped, terraced temple tower symbolizing a sacred mountain. Use of the true arch, vault, and dome, early experiments. Buttressed and recessed walls since brick discouraged long unbroken surfaces. Glazed and colored brickwork with relief figures notably Babylonian. Fortified cities with massive gateways. Major examples. Ziggurat of Ur, Sumerian. Ishtar Gate, Babylon, glazed brick, Nebuchadnezzar II. Hanging Gardens of Babylon, legendary, one of 7 wonders. Palace of Sargon II, Khorsabad, Assyrian. 1.3 Greek architecture, circa 900 to 30 BCE. Context. Emphasis on harmony, proportion, human scale, and civic, religious life, temples, theaters, agora. Key materials. Marble and limestone, post and lintel trebeted system. The 3 orders column systems. Order character capital example Doric sturdy, plain, masculine plain, no base Parthenon, Athens Ionic slender, elegant volute scroll Erechtheian, Athens Corinthian ornate, decorative acanthus leaves temple of Olympian Zeus. Characteristic features. Post and lintel construction, no true arch dome in major works. Peristyle colonnade surrounding building. Entasis, slight convex curve in columns to correct optical illusion. Golden ratio and mathematical proportion systems. Pediments with sculptural relief. Open-air theaters, stoas, agora as urban, civic spaces. Major examples. Parthenon, Athens, Ictinus and Callicrates pinnacle of Doric temple design. Erechtheian caryatid porch. Theater of Epidaurus. Temple of Athena Nike. 1.4 Roman architecture, circa 753 BCE 476 CE. Context. Engineering-driven empire, architecture for public utility, propaganda, and grandeur. Key materials and innovations. Concrete, opus caementicium, revolutionary, allowed large spans and complex forms. Fired brick, stone facing. True arch, vault, barrel, groin, and dome perfected. Characteristic features. Combined Greek orders decoratively with arch, vault engineering. Emphasis on infrastructure. Roads, aqueducts. Infrastructure, roads, aqueducts, bridges. Standardized building types across the empire. Concrete allowed interior volumes unmatched by Greeks. Major building types and examples. Type example Amphitheater Colosseum, Rome Temple Pantheon coffered concrete dome, Oculus Basilica Basilica of Maxentius Public Baths of Caracalla Aqueduct Pont du Gard Triumphal Arch of Constantine Forum Roman Forum. 2. Indian architecture. 2.1 Indus Valley Civilization, circa 2500-1500 BCE. Context. Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, earliest urban planning in India. Features. Gridiron town planning, streets meeting at right angles. Baked brick construction, standardized brick sizes. Advanced drainage and sewage systems. Great bath at Mohenjo-Daro, early water ritual architecture. Granaries, citadels, and residential quarters segregated. 2.2 Buddhist architecture, circa 3rd century BCE onward. Key building types. Stupa, solid hemispherical mound enshrining relics, surrounded by railings Vedika and gateways Torana. Example. Great Stupa at Sanchi. Chaitya, rock-cut prayer hall with apsidal end and stupa, e.g., Chaitya at Karli, Ajanta caves. Vihara, monastery, residential cells around a courtyard. Features. Rock-cut cave architecture flourished, Ajanta, Ellora, Karli, Baha. Ashokan pillars with animal capitals e.g., lion capital, Sarnath. Narrative relief carving depicting Jataka tales. 2.3 Hindu temple architecture. 2 broad styles. Style region features Nagara North India curvilinear shikara tower, single or clustered spires, e.g., Khajuraho, Konark Sun Temple, Lingaraja Temple Dravida South India Pyramidal Vimana, Gopuram gateway towers enclosed courtyards, e.g., Brihadiswarar Temple Thanjavur Meenakshi Temple Madurai Vesera hybrid Deccan blend of Nagara and Dravida, Hoysala Temples Belur, Halbadu. Common elements. Garbhagriha Sanctum Sanctorum. Mandapa Pillared Hall. Shikara Vimana superstructure. Intricate stone carving, mythological narrative sculpture. 2.4 Islamic architecture in India circa 12th-18th century. Introduced features. True arch and dome as opposed to corbelled construction. Use of the pointed Islamic arch. Minarets, calligraphy, geometric and arabesque ornamentation. Charbagh 4-part paradise garden planning. Phases and examples. Phase examples Delhi Sultanate Qutub Minar, Quwat ul Islam Mosque Mughal Tomb, Fatehpur Sikri, Red Fort, Taj Mahal, Shah Jahan Regional Sultanates Gol Gumbaz Bijapur one of the largest domes in the world. Indo-Islamic synthesis. Blended indigenous Trabit post-lintel traditions with Islamic arcuate arch dome systems, seen in Jali latticed screens, chhatras, and lotus motifs. 2.5 Colonial architecture in India circa 17th-20th century. Phases. Portuguese, Goa Church's Baroque influence Basilica of Bom Jesus. French, Pondicherry town planning. British. Indo-Saracenic style, fusion of Gothic classical European forms with Mughal Indian domes, chhatras, jalis, Victoria Terminus Mumbai Gateway of India, Madras High Court. Colonial classical Gothic revival, Victoria Memorial Kolkata Street. Paul's Cathedral. New Delhi as imperial capital, Lutyens Delhi, Rashtrapati Bhavan and India Gate Edwin Lutyens and Herbert Baker blend of classical European axial planning with Indian decorative elements. 3. Medieval and Renaissance architecture Europe. 3.1 Early Christian and Byzantine circa 4th-15th century. Basilican church plan adapted from Roman basilicas. Byzantine, pendentive dome construction, mosaic decoration. Example, Hagia Sophia, Constantinople. 3.2 Romanesque circa 1011-50. Thick walls, round arches, small windows, barrel groin vaults. Massive, fortress-like character. Examples, Durham Cathedral, Pisa Cathedral. 3.3 Gothic circa 1150-1500. Features. Pointed arch, ribbed vault, flying buttress, enabling taller structures with larger window openings. Stained glass windows, rose windows. Verticality and light as spiritual expression. Elaborate tracery, pinnacles, spires. Examples. Notre Dame de Paris, Chartres Cathedral, Cologne Cathedral, Milan Cathedral. 3.4 Renaissance circa 1400-1600. Context. Revival of classical Greek, Roman ideals, humanism, scientific perspective. Features. Symmetry, proportion, geometric clarity. Revival of classical orders, pediments, domes. Use of linear perspective in design. Key theorists, Vitruvius Ancient, Alberti, Palladio. Examples. Florence Cathedral Dome, Brunelleschi. Street. Peter's Basilica, Rome, Bramante, Michelangelo. Villa Rotonda Palladio. Later development, Baroque, circa 1600–1750. Dramatic movement, ornamentation, curvilinear forms, dynamic use of light and shadow, e.g., Street. Peter's Square Colonnade by Bernini, Versailles. 4. Modern architecture and postmodern movements. 4.1 Precursors, 19th century. Industrial Revolution. Iron, steel, glass as new materials. Crystal Palace, Joseph Paxton, 1851. Prefabricated iron and glass structure. Eiffel Tower, 1889. Engineering as architectural expression. Rise of the skyscraper, Chicago School, steel frame construction, e.g., home insurance building. 4.2 Modern movement, early mid-20th century. Core principles. Form follows function, rejection of historical ornament, honesty of materials, functionalism. Key movements and figures. Movement, architect contribution Bauhaus Walter Gropius integration of art, craft, and industry, functional design education Le Corbusier, 5 points of architecture, Pilotis, roof garden, free plan, free facade, ribbon windows Villa Savoy, Chandigarh, India Frank Lloyd Wright organic architecture, falling water, integration with landscape Mies van der Rohe, less is more, steel and glass minimalism, Seagram building Louis Kahn monumental, geometric clarity, served spaces versus servant spaces, IIM Ahmedabad, Bangladesh Parliament. Characteristics. Flat roofs, glass curtain walls, exposed structure, open floor plans, absence of ornament, international style post-World War II global spread. 4.3 Postmodern architecture circa 1960s–1990s. Reaction against the perceived sterility and monotony of modernism. Features. Reintroduction of historical references, ornament, color, and symbolism. Irony, wit, eclecticism, contextualism. Less is a bore, Robert Venturi counter to Mies. Key figures and examples. Robert Venturi, Complexity and Contradiction in Architecture, Vanna Venturi House. Michael Graves, Portland Building. Philip Johnson, AT&T Building, Chippendale Top. Charles Moore, Piazza d'Italia. 5. Contemporary architectural trends. Key directions today. Trend description example figure deconstructivism fragmented, nonlinear, disjointed forms Frank Gehry Guggenheim Bilbao Zaha Hadid high-tech architecture exposed structure services is aesthetic Renzo Piano and Rogers. Center Pompidou. Norman Foster sustainable green architecture energy efficiency, passive design, renewable materials LEED GREHA rated buildings, net zero design parametric and digital design computational. Algorithm-generated complex forms Zaha Hadid architects critical regionalism blending modern methods with local climate, culture, materials Charles Correa, B.V. Doshi, India adaptive reuse repurposing existing structures for new functions Tate Modern former power station smart responsive buildings integration of technology, IoT, automation contemporary commercial towers. Notable contemporary Indian architects, B.V. Doshi Pritzker Laureate, Regional Modernism Charles Correa Climate Responsive Design, Low-Cost Housing Raj Rewal. Quick revision summary. Egyptian right pointing arrow afterlife, pyramids, post and lintel, axial temples. Mesopotamian right pointing arrow ziggurats, brick, arch experiments. Greek right pointing arrow orders Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, proportion, temples. Roman right pointing arrow concrete, arch, vault, dome, infrastructure. Indus Valley right pointing arrow grid planning, drainage, baked brick. Buddhist right pointing arrow stupa, chaitya, vihara, rock-cut caves. Hindu right pointing arrow nagara verses. Dravida temple styles. Islamic India right pointing arrow true arch dome, Mughal monuments, Indo-Islamic synthesis. Colonial right pointing arrow Indo-Saracenic, Lutyens Delhi. Medieval right pointing arrow Romanesque, round arch right pointing arrow Gothic, pointed arch, verticality. Renaissance right pointing arrow classical revival, symmetry, proportion. Modern right pointing arrow functionalism, international style, key masters. Postmodern right pointing arrow ornament and symbolism return, eclecticism. Contemporary right pointing arrow deconstructivism, sustainability, parametric design, regionalism. Questions. Q1. Explain the significance of studying the history of architecture for architects, planners, and researchers. Illustrate your answer with suitable examples. History of architecture equips architects with a design vocabulary and structural logic, gives planners insight into time-tested urban patterns, and gives researchers the analytical tools for conservation and interpretation. It turns architecture from a series of isolated stylistic choices into a continuous, cumulative dialogue, where every contemporary design decision, consciously or not, is in conversation with the past. Studying the history of architecture isn't just an academic exercise, it directly shapes how architects, planners, and researchers think, design, and solve problems today. Here's why it matters, with examples. 1. Understanding the roots of design principles. Many principles taken for granted today, proportion, symmetry, structural logic, were first codified by earlier civilizations. Studying them gives designers a vocabulary and rationale, not just borrowed forms. The Greek orders Doric, Ionic, Corinthian established proportion systems still referenced in classical and neoclassical design today. Roman concrete and the arch-vault dome system, seen in the Pantheon, taught architects how material innovation directly expands spatial possibility, a lesson still relevant when evaluating new materials today. 2. Learning from climate-responsive and contextual solutions. Historic buildings evolved in direct response to local climate, materials, and culture, often achieving passive comfort without mechanical systems. Indian Havelis and courtyard houses used thick walls, jalousied lattice screens, and central courtyards for natural ventilation and cooling, principles now revived in sustainable design. Mughal charbagh gardens, as at the Taj Mahal, integrated water channels and planting for microclimate control. Contemporary architects like Charles Correa and B.V. Doshi explicitly drew on these vernacular lessons for climate-responsive, low-cost housing in modern India, proof that historical study feeds directly into present-day sustainable practice. 3. Structural and technological evolution. Understanding how societies solve the problem of spanning space, attributed to arcuate to modern steel concrete framing, helps architects appreciate why certain forms exist, and how innovation happens incrementally. The shift from Egyptian post and lintel to the Roman arch and dome, to the Gothic ribbed vault and flying buttress enabling the soaring height of Chartres Cathedral, shows a continuous evolution driven by the desire to enclose larger, lighter, taller spaces. This same logic underlies the leap to steel-framed skyscrapers in the 19th century Chicago school, and later to Le Corbusier's reinforced concrete, 5 points of architecture. 4. Cultural and symbolic meaning in design. Buildings are not just functional shells, they encode religious, political, and social values. Understanding this helps architects design meaningfully rather than superficially. The Hindu temple's Garbhagriha to Shikara sequence embodies a cosmological journey from the earthly to the divine. Lutyens Delhi combined European classical axial planning with Mughal-inspired domes and chhatras to symbolically project imperial authority while acknowledging Indian identity, a case study in how architecture communicates power and negotiation between cultures. 5. Avoiding, reinventing the wheel. History offers a vast bank of tested solutions. Recognizing recurring challenges, structural spans, urban density, climate control, monumental expression prevents designers from starting from zero. Modernist architects like Le Corbusier and Mies van der Rohe consciously rejected historical ornament, but their functional planning still engaged with historic urban and structural precedents even while critiquing them. Postmodernists like Robert Venturi later reintroduced historical reference and symbolism specifically because the profession had studied, and grown tired of, modernism's austerity. Without historical literacy, that critique and postmodernism itself wouldn't have been possible. 6. Foundation for urban and regional planning. For planners, historic settlement patterns reveal how cities organically solved circulation, sanitation, and zoning problems long before formal planning theory existed. The Indus Valley cities of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa show gridiron planning and sophisticated drainage systems dating to 2500 BCE, among the earliest evidence of deliberate urban planning anywhere in the world. Roman infrastructure, aqueducts, road networks, forums demonstrates early integrated city-scale planning that still informs how planners think about public infrastructure. 7. Basis for research, conservation, and adaptive reuse. Researchers and conservationists rely on architectural history to correctly date, interpret, and preserve heritage structures, and to make informed decisions about adaptive reuse. Tate Modern's conversion from a disused power station into a major art museum required deep understanding of the original industrial structure to sensitively repurpose it. Restoration of monuments like the Taj Mahal or Angkor Wat depends on precise historical, material, and structural knowledge to avoid damaging original fabric. 8. Inspiration for contemporary innovation. Even radically new movements often reinterpret historic ideas through new technology. Zaha Hadid's parametric, flowing forms echo age-old fascinations with organic and dynamic geometry, now made buildable through digital tools. Norman Foster's high-tech towers, with exposed structure as ornament, revisit the honesty of materials ethos of Gothic construction, just executed in steel and glass instead of stone. Q2. Describe the influence of religion, culture, climate, and available materials on the evolution of architecture in different